I think we hear it all the time, like stuff that we use in our everyday life was invented by a black person, but we don't know much about that. But when it comes to slavery, oh, we can watch slavery movies for days, for years. It's almost like they don't want us to think that way, y'all. They want us to say, you know what, this is where you come from. This is pretty much what you got. So just relive this a few more times.
There's a wave going on in this country right now where people are trying to whitewash history, suppress facts.
I feel like a good 80, I'll say like 70% of us is tired of these slave movies. And I feel like a good 20 or 30% are in love with these slave movies. It's your favorite film genre for some reason. So for that 20 or 30%, this is what I gotta tell you. Before we even jump into it, y'all gotta know this story is fictional. It says based on a true story, which is confusing to me. To me, there's a difference between based on a true story and inspired by a true story. This movie is really inspired by a true story. We only got like 3 facts on this guy, so it's not enough to make like a full length based on a true story film about him. The only thing we know is the person in the picture could be Peter or it could be another slave that went by the name Gordon. Yes, Peter and Gordon is in this film. In reality, it's unclear who was actually the person in the picture with their back turned to the camera. It could be Peter, it could be Gordon. We really don't know. Besides the picture, the only thing that's left that seems like it could be true, it could be part of the actual story, is the guy carried onions in his pocket to keep the slave hunters' dogs from smelling them when they chased them. So besides that, everything else you see in this movie is completely fictional. It's made up. So his family, his kids, the slave hunter, like everything is just a fictional story. I wanted to clear that up because I feel like this movie kind of led a lot of us to believe that it's based on a true story and these people that we're watching on the screen is actual people. So I just want to clear that up. So now we can jump into it. So I wasn't going to watch this just because it was another slave movie. I did a review on the trailer and I got a lot of feedback from you guys. Some of you guys in the beginning was saying, I need to shut up because like I said, the 20 or 30% of you guys love y'all slave movies for some reason. But the other percentage of you guys agree with me. So what I was saying in that review and what I'll say in this review is, I feel like there's not really a need for slave movies. So I was watching this movie to see what I can take away from it. I told myself, if I can watch this and get something that I can apply to my own life, I'll give it its credit. I'll give it its credit, but we're gonna talk about it in detail in this video. I'm gonna try to keep it spoiler free for you guys in case you want to see it. And then at the end, I'll give the film my personal rating, like 1 out of 5. If you're new to the actual story, this movie was loosely based on, long story short, Peter or Gordon is one of the many runaway slaves that tried to run away to Lincoln's army to get a better chance at freedom. So they were technically free, but everything didn't kick in until like a year later. So within that year, they had to fend for themselves. So this is why the slaves like Gordon and Peter had to run away to what they thought was a better place. They end up reaching the army, but they end up being enslaved again. And then they had to run away a second time. But all this isn't really in the film. When it comes to the movie, we have Peter. It's a simple story and a simple concept. So it's just he's running away trying to get to the army. So most of the movie is the chase. It kind of took me by surprise because probably a good 20 minutes in the movie we get all the slave stuff. You already know what comes with that. And then a good hour of the movie is just this cat and mouse chase with the slave hunter and Peter. But it surprised me because the movie started to turn into an action movie. At this point, I'm thinking to myself, there's no way all this really happened in real life or even came close to happening in real life. If you took the comedy away from the Django, you basically have this movie, y'all. But that's not to take anything away from Will Smith. I feel like he did the best he could with this movie. It's so like not him that it's kind of hard to see him as a runaway slave. But that's why I say I feel like he did the best he could. He had to like literally get in the trenches to do this movie. We really don't get much dialogue from Will Smith in this movie. Like the movie really depends on his facial expressions, the environment that he's around. So it's not much like drama. It's mostly just action, suspense. Since most of the movie is the cat and mouse chase, to me there's not really a lot of memorable scenes. It's like two that comes to mind is one scene where the slave hunter, they try to give us some backstory. But to me, the backstory they tried to include didn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense like how he just like snapped all of a sudden. Like he was way, way, way to the right. And then all of a sudden he just shifted and went to the left. You'll know what I'm talking about once you see it if you haven't saw it yet. But it's like that shift didn't make sense. It's like they left a lot out when it comes to the character of the slave hunter. And I think the most memorable scene is like the scene that the big speech Will Smith had at the end. To me, I feel like that was supposed to be like the moment that gets you like pumped up and emotional. I mean, I don't know, like since they already started the movie in a bad way to me, like saying it's based on a true story, then having the main character do some unrealistic stuff that like a normal human couldn't really do. For me, it ruined the whole like feeling that was supposed to be there towards the end. If they took like a whole different approach to this movie, like it didn't have to be about the picture of the slave with the whipped back. This movie could have easily been about something else in a different time period, but the same story, like the story of a religious father trying to get back to his family, his wife. Like we could have applied this to anything else. The fact that they just fabricated this whole story and turned it into something else, it's like, why? Us as black people, there's nothing we can take away from this. Like there's nothing. I think we hear it all the time, like stuff that we use in our everyday life was invented by a black person, but we don't know much about that. But when it comes to slavery, oh, we can watch slavery movies for days, for years. It's almost like they don't want us to think that way, y'all. They want us to say, you know what, this is where you come from. This is pretty much what you got. So just relive this a few more times. I feel like I'm going on a rant now, y'all. I feel like going on a rant now, so I'll stop. But if you watch this movie and don't see it as a slave movie, I feel like you'll enjoy it. If I went into this thinking, okay, this is just an action war movie, it's not really a slave movie, I think I'll enjoy it more. If you take away slavery and just made it its own standalone movie, I feel like it has the potential to be a good movie. There's a lot they could have done with that. It could have been based in the future, it could have been based in today's time. Like it could have been amazing. If they did that, that would have been an easy 4 out of 5 movie, if it was that way. But since this is what we have, a movie that's loosely based on a runaway slave, it's like a 2 out of 5. I give it like 1 star for like how it was shot. Like me personally, I never saw a movie that was shot this way. And Will did his thing. He actually from what I saw, there's no stunt doubles involved or anything like that. It's just him actually, like I said, literally getting in the trenches to do this film. So for him, the way it was shot, I give it 2 stars. My main goal in this video is to point out this movie is loosely based. It's inspired by a true story, but it's not based on a true story, y'all. That's it, man. That's it.